Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here representing Jason Blaha Strength and Fitness, and today I want to chat with you guys and gals a little bit about the fact that Paleolithic humans are believed to have eaten on average 100 to 150 grams of fiber a day, which to us today sounds crazy, but a quick reminder, if you guys will please click like down below, be greatly appreciated. If you're not subscribed or following, please do so. And if you'll be kind enough to drop me a comment down below, I would appreciate it so much. Thank you. So let's kind of get over to this topic. And I think this has to be highlighted both from a health perspective and then looking at, when you see a lot of people in various diet zealot circles who try to pretend that fiber is horrible and humans lived on only meat. And let me be clear with this statement. I am not trying to make an appeal to nature. I am not saying that necessarily the way your ancestors ate at any given time was optimal or perfect or anything else, or that natural is always better. So let me be clear, I am not making an appeal to nature with any of this. It's not what we're trying to do. That's not what we want to do. That's not obviously not the intended goal of this topic. So again, over to the point. In terms of looking at health benefits, something I'll discuss in just a minute, but definitely when we think of in terms of just historical or scientific accuracy, when you have a lot of the carnivores, some of the really low carb people who say this nonsense, we shouldn't be eating fiber at all, and our ancestors all lived on nothing but meat. There's like absolutely zero evidence for this. And it's like, when people say that, then they'll say, well, scientists don't know everything. And it's like, well, I think they probably know more than you do. The ones who've looked at the remains and done carbon testing and dig this stuff up, they probably do know a little bit more than you do about what these people probably ate. But their argument will then be, well, it's common sense. There's nothing to eat. I'm like, really? Go look at tribes all over the world still. They dig up roots, berries, nuts. They dig up tons and tons of roots and tubers. And I think that's a point that gets missed in all this. Like root vegetables and tubers have historically, as far as we know, if you're looking at the data, and any grains that they could just find, were enormous staples. If anything, for most humans in hunter-gatherer tribes, this comprises an enormous chunk of their calories. Okay, it's an enormous chunk of their calories because they can only get so much meat. It's like we're not out here hunting down big game all day. And when they did, it was lean. Setting aside the Arctic regions, which I'm not going to go into that whole argument. Almost none of your ancestors came from there, so just stop. Animals are pretty lean. They're just protein. And what happens when you protein overfeed? What do we know from studies in humans? You protein overfeed, you try to eat 400 grams of protein a day, which is still only 1,600 calories. You start losing weight and body fat. The thermic effect and everything is so high that you can't maintain your weight most of the time if you're active. Like, you can't. So this should be the first dead giveaway. Just metabolically, all of us who observe this realize, this is who've gotten into serious training or nutrition. You've ever done extreme protein overfeeding, you understand what we're saying. You start losing body weight sometimes, generally almost always. Okay? When you start hitting that. So how much protein do you really think they were getting? Come on. So again, common sense, looking at the type of animals, like grass-fed beef is not indicative of wild game. It's still super, super fatty. It's a sedentary animal eating all day, not out running and trying to escape predators and foraging. Okay, totally different. Wild game is absurdly lean. It's not generally a viable source of primary calories, even if you're able to get pounds of it a day. Okay, and they weren't. So what we do find, it was ultra high fiber. So if you go look, Paleolithic humans, when we dig up any remains, and we still find remains, mummified remains, not just fossils. And when we find this stuff, what do we find their stomachs full of? Any grains that they could harvest, lots of roots, vegetables. It's loaded full of fiber. They eat lots and lots of vegetables, plants. They cook everything, stewed stuff so they get better nutrition. But you always see tubers and grains. Okay. When we look at a lot of this, we realized that most experts think that, yeah, through tens of thousands of years, so Paleolithic human, pre-agricultural, right, which is most of the time of our species, right? We weren't raising animals. We didn't have milk and cows and goats out in the field. Yeah, you could hunt. That was it. So it was all this stuff. So when they look at it, they're like, yeah, they ate like 100 to 150 grams of fiber. It was pretty average around the world in most regions. So this also tells us that, hey, we're genetically the same as them. Like there's been minimal changes, right? Minor shifts in gene flow. But by and large, we're genetically still the same, right? Same species. They handled all that fiber just fine. That tells us that if once you adapt to it, you handle that fiber just fine. Okay? So then this is what we know based upon on data. So then it's like, what happens when we look at real research in humans and fiber? Well, this does actually match. This is a case of instead of appeal to nature, we say, well, they were able to do it and survive and thrive, right? They were able to survive, so it clearly wasn't excessively harmful. But then when we look at modern data, the more fiber people eat in general from whole foods, we're not talking a fiber supplement, that doesn't seem to produce the same benefits. The more fiber we eat, the healthier we tend to be. Okay? And that includes even the people who have extreme longevity. When you really go look at their diets, man, they ate a lot of fiber usually. Very high fiber diets. All right, the more fiber we eat, the more resistant we are to cancers. Okay, the more resistant we are to diabetes. Okay, more resistant we are to cardiovascular disease. All right, we have less obesity. We have a better immune system, and that's a big one too. We know that gut health is critical for our immune system, and we know that fiber, in a wide variety of fiber, right? Getting fiber from multiple sources. I hate it when people say, hey, what is the best form of fiber? To get 3 or 4 types every day, that's the best type. Okay? Again, that's another reason that even supplementing gets silly. We know that the more diverse your fiber intake and fiber sources, the better your gut health tends to be. The better your immune system tends to be. And then that trickles into all sorts of other benefits. So again, our physiology, historically, we ate way more fiber than even most high fiber people eat today, right? This is just a fact. And then we know that the more fiber we eat, the healthier we are. So if anyone wanted to look at something, at what's technically natural, ultra high fiber,